Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the All-Star AD on the Educational AD podcast. We'll be right back with this week's All-Star, but we want to give a shout out to our podcast partners, Vital Signs Wall of Fame, the Global Community of Women in High School Sports, the Florida Coaches Coalition, and We Coach. Check out these four great organizations, add them to your network. And now don't hit that fast forward button. Stay with us for the next 3 minutes and listen to our podcast sponsor shout outs. These are all great companies that you should have on your team. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Snap Mobile for their support. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their entire suite of platforms, including SnapRaise, their fundraising platform. We've used it with great success, and so can you. They've helped schools just like yours raise over $700 million, and they have a program where you can even get your funding before you start your fundraiser. I don't think anybody else does that. Go to snapraise.com for more information. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. Huddle is not just for football anymore. Turn your school into a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com. Check out all the tools that they can provide your coaches, your student athletes, and your teams to help them play at the highest level. It's going to be a professional grade solution to the challenges we all face as ADs. At Huddle, we believe in sports, and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thank you to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. The Wall of Fame is an interactive touchscreen video console that's going to highlight your school's top performers in athletics, academics, and the arts. But it's so much more than that. The Wall of Fame is also an extensive content program that helps you tell more compelling stories to better engage your audience. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their great products, and when you're ready to purchase, use the link vitalsignswalloffame.com/Jake for a nice discount. Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Check them out today. We also want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. They're going to show you how to sell tickets for all your events, not just athletics, but things like school plays and concerts, school dances, even graduation. And the best part, you're going to have a dedicated client success manager that's providing hands-on support to you every step of the way. That's hands-on support. Go to hometownticketing.com. Simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo and see their tables and their boards in action. They not only generate income for your department, but they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. One of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Check out their great products today. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and see how athletic directors are creating world-class marketing content for their school's social media channel. Mention our code ADPOD10 and Gipper will give you 10% off all purchases. Create custom content for your school's social media channel. Go to Gipper.com. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Go to athleticsurveys.com and let them create a custom survey for you, which will allow you to take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. ADs typically only hear back from that 2%, the squeaky wheel parent or the frustrated student athlete, and we need to hear back from them so we can affect positive change. But we also need to hear back from the 98% that really love and support our program, and that's where Athletic Surveys comes in. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everyone, to another segment of All-Star AD. This is our series featuring 10 great women athletic directors from the state of Florida, sharing their views on topics that are important to them and are important to all athletic directors. Our guest today is Evanitta Omensetter. She is an assistant principal and the athletic director at Tampa's HB Plant High School, previous podcast guest, and we're happy to have her back. So, Evanitta, welcome back. And what do you have for listeners today on All-Star AD?
Thank you, Jake, for having me back. I think today I have organizational skills. I'm pretty anal retentive, so to speak, and OCD about how we get things done. And as an athletic director and in the position, because I'm not just an athletic director, I'm also an assistant principal. Um, a lot of things fall under my plate. Facilities, custodial staff, things like that are always, and I guess my number one job would be facilities as I see it when I'm in the school building. Because if we don't have facilities, we don't run. School doesn't run. Um, so that's at the top of the list, right? And then somewhere in there is athletics, the custodial staff, student nutrition, and so forth. I have to be pretty organized in how um, I go about things and how they get done. So back when I was getting my master's, they made us read a book. It was a leadership book, and it had like the 7 habits of effective leaders, right? So I've kind of taken those 7 habits and infused them in everything that I do, right? And one of the habits that they have is that you prioritize. So you always prioritize what's first. So that's to me is part of your organizational skills, right? You put out what fire is coming up right then and there in front of you before you move on to the next fire, because during the school day, that's what you're doing, right? That's the majority of my job is I'm putting out these fires. Therefore, I have to be organized knowing that I have these fires that I have to put out, but I also have these things that are on the athletic director side that I have to get done. Rosters, looking at kids' clearances. So prioritizing becomes a skill that you need, which to me is an organizational skill, right? Um, and then one of those other habits is win-win. You have to think about win-win solutions, right? With the multiple tasks that are put on our plate, you you need your little army. I think before I talked about I need a little army to be able to help me so that I can delegate some things and I know that they'll get done. So um, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with my head custodian. So when something goes wrong in the facility, I'm calling him and I'm saying, here's what I need you to do, and here's what I need you to put at the top of your list. And I kind of just have like a calendar for him to go through and say, here's what we need to get done on these days and so forth. Right. So then on my left hand is my secretary, who I task with other things that, are more of the clerical type of things. So I need this typed up. I need a roster taken care of. I need this filled out. Um, or I need this maintenance request put in. Please call maintenance and tell them I need this. So she gets the other half of my organizational skills. So both of those two people, we have this love-hate relationship, because on days where things don't go right, I'm a tyrant and I'm just like, well, why didn't they get done? I told you to do it this way and that kind of thing. So getting those skills and the priorities, and then I have to think about win-win, right? Because I have to be able to win in the task that has to be completed, and I need them to feel good so that they do work for me. Um, so it's kind of balancing the result with what needs to get done, right? And so those are some of the habits that I follow. There's another habit is synergy, and to me, synergy means to work together, right? You work together, and in order for you to be organized, that's where my little army comes in, and I have to task them like graduation, right? I have a little army right now for graduation. There's 3 of us planning it. I need the staff to make it work, in order for the kids to fall in line and just kind of line up and do what they need to do so that we put on a dignified ceremony. Um, so being organized is one of the things that I, as an athletic director, and what I do daily is a must. Make lists. Those are the skills that I would say. Like, make a list. If you're not a list person, fine. Don't do a list, right? Like, most of us have smartphones, right? There's a note feature on your smartphone. Type in there what you need to do, right? So that you can remember it. You don't have to go and buy like an app to do everything, right? That use the features that are given to you on your phone. Um, I do. I'm techie. I don't like paper. If I don't have to have paper, I'm good, right? And my desk right now is covered in paper. And every time I walk into my office, I cringe. I just cringe because there's so much paper when I could be paperless if people would just open the computer and learn a little bit, right? So um, I try to do everything in forms. There's always a form for everything. Um, and I know that Final Forms is like one of your sponsors and things like that. So it kind of works the same way like Final Forms does. But again, I just use the tools that are given to us. I use everything in Microsoft, right? The district gives us Microsoft. There's a Microsoft form. All I have to do is create the question, send the link out, and you as the receiver would just click on it and fill in the blanks. And sometimes I make it real easy so that it's multiple choice and you don't have to type anything. Just click the choice, right? And then it's an exportable sheet that comes in Excel. And I love Excel. It's the only way I work. And then you can sort it however way you want it so that you can get your tasks done, so to speak, right? Um, on the athletic director side, like holding a district coordinator meeting, because everybody in your district isn't always close. We are now allowed to have those meetings via Zoom or Teams. I send the link out, and then I have to account for attendance. And when I account for attendance, I send them a link to the forum. And while we're on the meeting, I put the link in the chat box and say, here's the link. This is attendance. Please make sure you sign in because this is our record of attendance. This will be attached when I submit the minutes to FHSAA so that I can vouch for your attendance, and then I get their email address so that they can get the minutes from me, right? So, and if they type in the information, there's no misspellings or, I missed a letter here or there. They are putting in that information for me, and it's a copy and paste, right? So it's, I try to put those skills and, with every electronic thing that's available to us to be able to use it so that I'm better organized. Um, and it's whether it's a sticky note. I like sticky notes, right? So on my computer, on my desk, I have sticky notes, and this coming from the person that hates paper, right? So I hate paper, but I'll use sticky notes up the wazoo to be organized.
Right.
Practice schedules for our for our coaches, right? Because we have a plant, we are very limited on space. We're very landlocked, so we literally just have the football field, baseball, softball, and maybe a small area. There's a small area, a grassy area where they can go practice. Well, you don't want to tear up your football field, so you try and send them to that grassy area. But in the spring, like right now, I think I have 8 teams right now who are sharing 2 spaces. And that's a lot of teams for just 2 spaces. So in order to be organized, I put together a calendar for them and I set the coaches down and I say, here's the calendar. Here are the practice times available. I need you guys to meet as adults, sort it out, figure out what times that you want so that it works for you and your teams and what you have to get done, and then make a schedule so that we're cohesive and we can share space. And then I say to them, if you can't do that nicely, I will do it. And you don't want me to do it because that's whatever time I give you is the time you're stuck with. Right. So, so they try not to get me involved in that process, but I at least sit them down and say, here's the calendar, go to work. Right. So that we can post it and everybody knows who's where. They put their game schedules on there so they know what time they have to take the field. So maybe after school, because we get out at 3:30, a team can have a school for a couple hours before the team that's playing that night comes onto the field. So that's another type of organizational part that I kind of, and I delegate it out, right? So my little army, I make one coach, like my girls track coach is in charge of the spring sports, get that calendar working, right? In the winter, it's my basketball coach because now they're fighting over the gym. Right? So it's boys and girls basketball, then you've got the JV teams and you've got cheerleading and then there's dance. So in that one, the girls basketball coach helps me put that together. And I try to give them their autonomy so that I'm not the hammer. I only need to be the hammer when I need to be. So I try to give them that. But those are the type of organizational skills to kind of keep me sane, because then as the facilities manager, and we rent, Hillsborough County rents out our facilities like the auditorium, the fields, anything like that when it's not being used. I take those calendars that they give me and I go to the facility calendar and I block all of those times out, right? So now, anytime that somebody wants to rent the facility, they'll see the times that it's available, which is pretty much none. Right? So, but that's the only way for me to kind of generate revenue to help to bring money in to help my facilities as far as, when things are broken and what I need to get fixed and so forth. So I have to leave a little bit of time in there outside of all those practices so that we can rent the facility out, so to generate that revenue to help us take care of our facility. So putting all of that together, it becomes a zoo if you're not organized, if you're not detailed, and if you can't multitask, right? Like it's organized chaos. That's what I call it, right? And I would say out loud, hey, you need to be organized, know where things are in your office and things like that, so that it's nice and neat, blah, 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 right? But if you walk into my office, you're gonna go, what a disaster. She's the organized person and she's got stuff all over the place, but I can tell you where everything is at. I'll be able to find anything in that mess that's there now. So those are the type of things that I like to do. But if I can do it online where I can just share a file with somebody, I'm going to do it online, because then they can just make changes to it versus printing paper out and like making the changes 50 times and keep printing it out. We can just share one calendar and you add and delete as needed, right? I have a few coaches who are not electronically savvy, and don't want to make that change, but so I try my best to accommodate them. Those are the ones that I say, okay, give me yours on paper. Let's go over it. And then I'll plug you in. Have you talked to everybody else about it? Right. Or it's the track coach who's in charge of the spring calendar that's entering that coach's, dates, because they're not tech savvy enough. So amongst themselves, they're able to do that. But they always tell me, I can't do what you're asking me to do because I'm just not good at it. I said, but you got to try. We just try. All I ask you to do is try. It'll make your life easier. It'll make my life easier. So those type of skills are like, they're vital for me to be successful in what I do. And I think it's why I am successful in what I do, because I'm able to kind of multitask and juggle all of that and organize what's what. Like I'm good at planning. You ask me to plan something, I'll plan it out and then I'll give it to you and say, here you go, right? Here's what we're gonna do. I'm not good with change. So if there's a hiccup when all of that is going on, I'm going, oh my gosh, I didn't plan for that. you know? But so I try to think ahead when there's ever an activity or something, I try to think ahead so that I'm ahead of the game and I'm not playing catch up, or there's not a hiccup and everything kind of goes off smoothly. That's not always the case, right? But creating forms, exporting data, even scheduling students on the academic side of things, like it's literally about making lists and being organized enough, and then to prioritize what comes first, right? And then I think the last habit is where you're always looking to, one of them is seek first to understand before you're understood. So I always have to try and understand where my coaches are coming from or where my staff is coming from. I always have to stop and think about, okay, how's that going to help them? How is it, or is it going to help, before I say to them, well, I want you to do it this way, blah, blah, blah. I need to hear them out, on what their side is and how they want to do it. And then I give them, well, what have you thought about doing it this way? Okay. And then the last one I believe is sharpen the saw, right? So it's all about getting better. right? And part of being organized is it is going to be a little bit chaotic at first, but you get better at it a little bit at a time, right? And if you're a new AD just coming in that first year, you're swimming. You're just trying to stay above water, get everything that you need to get done, and get yourself organized so that year two, or not even year two, maybe 6 months down the road, you're better at it. Because it's a crash course at first, right? But then you learn, okay, I need to do this first, this first, this, and so forth. And then if you organize yourself that way, the job comes to be much easier and much more rewarding. Um, and like, I don't think I'd ever trade what I do. I wouldn't trade, no matter how chaotic it got, because I'm organized enough that I can put things
Right.
in compartments. I'll never trade what I do. I love what I do. Some days I complain about it. Some days I'm ecstatic about it. But organizational skills definitely help me where I'm at today.
Yeah, boy, you really covered a lot of the areas that I think young athletic directors don't really understand. You talked about bringing in facilities and the community, and certainly communicating with your coaches. I'd use that same expression. If you can't play well together and put that schedule together, I will come in and put a schedule together for you. Evanitta, great stuff. If one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Email is always the best way because that's my task list. So if they email me, it's my first name, Evanitta, Evanitta .Omensetter, Omensetter at hcps.net.
And for our NIAAA friends, Evanitta's information is also available in the NIAAA portal. Evanitta Omensetter, thanks so much for sharing with us today on All-Star AD, and all the best as spring sports continues to play out this year.
Thank you so much, Shay. Playoff time now.
Yeah. For our listeners, we do this every single week, and we upload the Zoom videos to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening. Come back next week for another All-Star AD, and just about every day on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Hey, thanks again for listening. Before we go, we do want to give our sponsors a shout out. Gipper.com, create custom content for your school's social media channel. Hometown Ticketing, go to hometownticketing.com, start selling your tickets online. We want to thank Huddle. Go to huddle.com, turn your school into a Huddle school. We want to say thanks to Snap Raise. That's snapraise.com. Fundraising, parent communication organization, snapraise.com. Want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Mention our podcast and you'll get a nice little discount. Want to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, schedule a live web demo, see their tables and their boards in action. And Athletic Surveys. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Let them create a custom survey so you can take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. Thanks again for listening to All-Star AD. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.